It's all about Caleb Williams in Chicago. How is this roster position for year two? We're putting it under the microscope today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Joe, it's the most wonderful time of the year on our program because this is really at its core what we aspired for this show to be when we did a rebrand a couple of years ago and asked ourselves, how can we take all of the experiences that we have with covering our own teams and understanding of the league and the draft experiences that we've had and getting access to talk to the people who build rosters for a living. How do we apply all that into really compelling, unique content? And this is now what, year four? Year four of us doing this on the show?
I think so.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
We're going to look over the course of the next 8 weeks at every NFL franchise is going to get their own individual show. And we're going to deep dive your team, deep dive your roster. We've watched tape over the weekend. We're classifying the players on your respective teams as any one of a number of categories that include roster cornerstones, quality starters, adequate starters, quality depth players, replacement level players, rookies, incomplete evaluations, practice squad caliber players, and non-NFL roster players. And the objective being, we're going to figure out whose rosters we like the most and then quantify it after 8 weeks.
Fun will be had. I also love taking this opportunity to relearn the league. There's been so much movement in terms of players.
A lot of players.
Yeah, whether it's draft picks or, of course, free agency. And so now you spend time on every single team getting acquainted or reacquainted with what's going on, and you formulate those big, preseason opinions, and it sets a foundation for everything that's going to come here on this podcast in the lead up to the 2025 season, which is going to be Eagles and Cowboys to start.
That's right. Everybody's real mad online. Cowboys getting a primetime game to start, but I'm fine.
You're watching it. Doesn't matter who it was. Never mattered. Everyone's watching it.
And then we get the Friday game. We need more Friday games, I think. You could sign me up for week one being Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night.
Just a triple header every day.
Just go. Yeah.
Let's just go. Everyone gets a standalone game in week one. There we go. That's a great idea.
Done. Roger, call us. Yeah, we'll set it up. Let's look at the Bears, who year one with Ben Johnson, obviously. You look at what's been assembled, and I think you can see the Ben Johnson flavors that exist, particularly in the offensive side of the ball. And obviously they did a lot of work on the offensive line, but we're starting with the skill players, where this team drafted Colston Loveland and Luther Burden with their top two picks. They also used a late round draft choice on Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, fun little running back, to go with DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, Travis Homer in the backfield. Obviously, last year's first-round pick, Roma Dunze, is one of the primary wide receivers. DJ Moore, very productive NFL veteran player, longtime player. Cole Kmet has kind of been a target sponge for the last couple of years of Chicago's offense. They signed Durham Smythe in free agency as kind of a depth player at the tight end position. Bring in Devin Duvernay, Olamide Zacchaeus. Tyler Scott's a young guy that's been there for a little bit. I mean, there's there's some intrigue with what this group looks like, but I don't know outside of kind of the proven commodities that Cole Kmet and DJ Moore are. I don't really know what to expect. There's a lot of potential, but not a lot of players. I have a lot of conviction as what they are as NFL players.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of clarity this year. And I don't think anyone would argue that last year the skill players weren't in good shape for Caleb Williams, right? I think there's certainly some upgrades this year, minus Keenan Allen. And then I think you certainly restored what he brought to the table. But how much did Caleb Williams help or hurt that supporting cast last year, I think is a fair question. And maybe the talent was good enough, but you would say the coaching piece was maybe goofy and it didn't allow everyone to be the best version of themselves. And you look at, a guy like Roma Dunze, who is a top 10 pick, but he had the highest percentage of uncatchable targets thrown his way of any player in the league this year. How much better is he going to be if that, not only if there's growth from Caleb Williams, but if the infrastructure is a little bit more stable from a scheme perspective for everyone to play their best football. So what I take away from the skill players is that from a talent perspective, they got a lot. They got a lot of, potent weapons that if used correctly can really be productive and put stress on a defense at all three levels of the field. And so it's all about Ben Johnson getting it to all work together and Caleb Williams kind of taking a step with that improved scheme infrastructure around him this year.
So let's kind of apply the lens of the player assignments that we have for this group. I had DJ Moore as a quality starter, and then I had DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet as adequate level starters, Roma Dunze as an incomplete evaluation as coming off of a rookie season. And you mentioned there was a lot of fake targets, if you will. As far as just the never in history opportunities as far as targets. Luther Burden is a rookie. Colson Loveland is a rookie. Those are kind of the headlining players of this skill group. DJ Moore kind of being the headliner. I have him down as a quality starter.
Yeah, I have DJ Moore as a quality starter. Roma Dunze, I put him as a sufficient level starter because I thought there was enough production, and I loved the kind of one of the things you loved about Rome was the route running and the contested catch piece, and I thought he was really good in those areas. And so I kind of like where he's at, and I think he'll get a little bit more his way this coming season. I'm interested. Go ahead.
Would you agree to put him as a pink, which is incomplete evaluation, leaning yellow? So he'll get a fraction of the points that you would get as if you were just because there's upside there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think DeAndre Swift's a sufficient level starter, but I do look at this running back room as kind of the piece of the skill player conversation where you just can't help but think, what did Ben Johnson have in Detroit? What does he have here? And then what's really, really different? I don't see David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs here, right? And that's, I understand that's a really good duo. But, I mean, DeAndre Swift's probably just like a sufficient level starter, and I don't know that there's like an electric player to really give them a Gibbs role in this mix. I know that Swift's kind of multifaceted, and he's got experience with Ben Johnson. That's not a
I don't think that's a good thing, though.
Well, here maybe it is a good thing from this lens, is that they didn't really do anything here, right? Like they drafted Monungai was a late round pick. That was it, right? They could have done things at running back, and so that familiarity with Swift didn't lead to, oh man, we better do stuff here, because they had chances and they didn't.
And Swift had 295 touches last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty sizable workload here. I have Swift down as an adequate level starter. I think you're going to have to take the good with the bad that exists with him as far as like the inconsistencies with the vision and the execution. Now, I agree with you that running back room, the weight and responsibility, the success of the running game is going to fall heavily onto the players that are playing in front of them. Mm-hmm. Because regardless of who it is, like you said, I don't think the floor or the ceiling is there as what they had Ben Johnson had in Detroit. So I think that's totally fair to call out. We didn't get really into Caleb Williams all that much. quarterbacks get their own time in the sun as we figure out how to rank them, because we do grade and quantify those grades differently at the quarterback position than we do every other position on the roster because of how direct of an impact the quarterback position has on a team's successes or failures.
Now, we will talk about the trenches here coming up, so be sure to stick with us. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you can start building wealth. The insights, folks, they are surprising. When I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I can save more. Super convenient as well. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. Plus, it's easy to collaborate. You can manage money with your partner smoother than ever and track all your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So be sure to take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
All right. Trench play in Chicago. Been a bit of a sore spot. Has the opportunity to be as good of a line that the Bears have had since when Olin Kreutz was manning down center.
Olin Kreutz and Ruben Brown, right?
Right. Yeah. Like,
that's a nice little pair.
Well, they got some nice pairings here that they've gone out, and we're obviously aggressive in trading for Jonah Jackson and trading for Joe Thuney, and signed Drew Dahlman in free agency to go with Darnell Wright, who was a top 10 pick a couple years ago. There was some speculation, depending on how the board was going to fall for them in the top 10. Would they go with a left tackle and just kind of whitewash the entire thing? They ultimately decided not to do that. So Braxton Jones projected as the starter, but Ozzie Trapilo from Boston College is a day 2 draft choice that the team now has, who talked a little bit after getting drafted about some cross training at both left and right tackle. But from a body of work at Boston College perspective, would be a right tackle. So there's probably some opportunity to kind of shuffle if they wanted to at tackle, but that interior group, provided they're healthy, which is a little bit of a big if with Jonah Jackson, is probably going to be set.
Yeah, I like the investments on the interior in particular. I think that's so important for a quarterback to not have as much threat of pressure in the face, right? That's the worst pressure to get. And, obviously all about Caleb Williams and giving him his best opportunity to be successful. So securing that middle 3, I think, was very wise on behalf of Ryan Poles and company. And I guess the questions, and I very lightly use the word questions, it's at tackle, right? I think there's really, what you're getting in Thuney, Dahlman, and Jackson, Jackson, of course, barring injury. You're looking for growth out of both of those young tackles. And I think they've both showed a lot of promise, to be honest with you. I don't think they're the world's worst tackles, like maybe some people think that they are. And so I'm looking for growth there. I love the idea of what Penei Sewell was for the Lions. And, it was all about the run blocking and the movement in the run game. And certainly Darnell Wright can do that. Yeah, man. Yeah. So I think this will be a great scheme for Darnell Wright to take that step. And, if Braxton Jones is going to be the guy, great. If not, we got Ozzie Trapilo. I mean, certainly they drafted him pretty high with intent for him to be a starter. Now it's about when and where.
So I have Darnell Wright, who's played a ton of snaps. He's missed just a handful of snaps his first 2 seasons. I had him down for a pink, lean, yellow, meaning incomplete evaluation. Do you want to stand on the table? Because I believe you just have him as an adequate level starter to start right now with upward mobility and potential. And there's going to be players that we did last year that we're going to do this year that were adequate starters that became roster cornerstones cornerstones that maybe regress to be quality depth or adequate. So year over year, it changes. But right now, this point in time, are you super convicted with Darnell Wright as an adequate starter?
I would say 75% convicted. I think the scheme and I think some stability at right guard will help. Him play his best football.
Yeah, I just mean from a scoring perspective. Like, are we giving him the full points? Are we giving him the 80% point cut down for being a young player that we're not all the way?
I think we can meet in the middle there, Kyle. I'm happy to meet in the middle with you.
Very good. All right, very good. But I also have Braxton Jones. So I've Darnell Wright as leaning towards adequate level starter right now, and Braxton Jones as a adequate starter. And then I have Jonah Jackson, adequate starter, Dahlman and Joe Thuney as quality starters up front.
Yeah, Jones, Jackson, Wright, sufficient, adequate starters. Everyone yells at me because I say adequate instead of adequate. So that's why I've been saying sufficient instead. So, but I let
we could change. I'll meet you there. We could change it.
Sufficient. Because we're going to get YouTube comments. Joe said adequate instead of adequate.
Like etiquette. So, you're adequate and etiquette.
My cousin Tom yells at me about this all the time. It's like, you said adequate. All right. Thuney and Dahlman I have as quality starters.
Okay. So we're pretty much on the same page for the offense then.
Yeah.
Defensively, projected group of Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, Dayo, Odeyingbo, and Gervon Dexter. This is the best the Chicago Bears defensive fronts looked in a hot minute too.
Yeah, I agree. Nice additions this offseason in Dayo, Odeyingbo, and Grady Jarrett to give them a much higher floor with obviously a lot of playmaking potential with those two guys. And I like what I've seen from Gervon Dexter. Between him and Zach Pickens, they took them both like on day 2 a couple of years ago. You just kind of hope one of them would turn into something. Pickens has not really shown anything, but Dexter has been a redeeming player. And I think with Andrew Billings as kind of the third guy with Shamar Turner coming in, I kind of like the makeup of that with, I think you have some floor there with Billings and you know what you're getting. You have some ceiling in Dexter and Turner, and then Grady Jarrett, hopefully he can be healthy and remind us of the player he was for Atlanta for so long.
I like Turner a lot, and I think putting him in a group with Dexter and Pickens as the young guys, I agree with you as far as I think Dexter has lapped Pickens from a
couple times
perspective. Billings, you know what he is. There's not necessarily a ton of ceiling. He's one of those college noses that had a little bit of sack production, right? That everybody got all excited about, and he was a folk legend back in his draft cycle.
Sure was.
But you know what he is. If you let him play to his strengths, I think there's a role that he can fill on any defensive front, and you're going to feel like he's going to be able to execute that assignment. That might not just be the most sexy assignment, but when you offset that with having Turner and Grady Jarrett as pieces of the rotation, I think it's a really complimentary group. The ceiling is going to be determined by the young guys because obviously Jarrett is not an ascending player at this stage of his career, but I think they got much more competitive up front and should give Montez Sweat a chance to keep his head above water and not face all the traffic in the world trying to rush the passer.
I do think it's important for some third rusher to emerge here off the edge. Odeyingbo and Sweat, they're going to play a ton of snaps. But between Austin Booker, who they made a pretty healthy trade to get him.
Right. Because they were done.
Yeah.
Right?
They gave up pick 109 in this year's draft is what it wound up being, in addition to the 4th round pick they used last year on him. I like Booker. Didn't do much during the season, certainly had a good preseason. So we need him to take a step here as a third guy. I don't know if it's going to happen for Dom Robinson, but I think that's a really critical piece of this front, which we know is they're going to rotate. We need that third guy to step up here, and hopefully it's Austin Booker.
I think that would probably be my takeaway from both trenches for Chicago is the depth on the edges concerns me. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess offensively, I like the ceiling that you get with Amageji and Trapilo, but we don't know anything about it, right?
Right. And then obviously on the edge, I agree with you wholeheartedly where, this a third edge rush player they may benefit from being in the market for one of those
there's a million
post-June 1st free agents that's always out there this time of year.
Well, I mean, Clowney just got released, right?
Yep. So you put Clowney into the pool with the other guys that are still out there, like Darius Smith and
Von Miller,
and I feel like there's at least one more too that I just saw the other day and was like, man, he's still out there. They signed for somebody. Yep.
Right. That's a good call out. They should be after. They don't have any cap space. So that's a little bit of a problem.
That's part of the strategy and why we started with the North, right?
Right.
So what teams don't have a bunch of spending power? They could totally blow up our roster assessments.
And you know what's interesting about that? It's 3 of the bottom 9 teams in the NFL right now in terms of cap space are in the NFC North, but then the Lions have like 40-something million. We shouldn't be worried about their edge 2 situation. They go get one, right? They got a ton of extensions to figure out, but you wouldn't expect that to be the team with the most cap space just off the sniff test.
They've done most of them. I mean, not to get off on a tangent here.
Here we go.
But we'll get off on a tangent here. I mean, St. Brown's done. Decker got done last year. Sewell got done. Goff got done last year.
But after this year, it's Laporta, it's Campbell, it's Gibbs, it's Branch.
Yeah,
so Ragno needs a bump if he's not going to retire.
Kirby Joseph got his on draft weekend.
Sure did.
So spend a little bit, put some in your back pocket, carry it over to next year.
Just get an edge too. Just get an edge too. That's all I'm saying. Detroit, just get an edge too.
No love for
Marcus Davenport. No, Kyle. No, I don't have any love for Marcus Davenport because you know what? He didn't have any love for me either. So
he stood us up.
Only one that's ever stood us up.
Only player in the history of draft dudes that ever stood us up.
Yep.
8-year run stood us up. All right, back 7 after the break.
Sounds
cool. Stick with us. Chicago will always have a soft spot in my heart for the 2025 draft, and the pick of Ruben Hippolyte is a 4th round draft choice, who I got put onto about a week and a half before the draft that, hey, this Maryland linebacker is taking about a dozen 30 visits. Thought I'd put his name out there. I didn't see him on your rankings. And then sure enough, he gets drafted. And you know the game you play. It's like, how long can I sit here on draft weekend and go before somebody picks some long snapper I didn't watch or something like that?
Yeah.
And that would have not been a player I would have had under lock and key and ready to roll. I got him between 301 and 325, and the Bears made him a pick. And they made him a pick early enough that I said, darn it, I'm glad I got that. So thank you to whoever reached out to me, who will not be named on the show.
Listen, I would have lost all the money I have in my bank account if I would have put a bet on whether or not we would start the back 7 discussion with Ruben Hippolyte. Yeah. So use that Monarch money to make sure you don't find yourself in that position. All right. So back 7 here. Still rolling with this linebacker duo of Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, which I think has been a pretty good pair. I think they will benefit from what's been going on in front of them this offseason, where I think the arrival of Jarrett and Odeyingbo is going to matter a lot for that second level. I think there's a really high floor with TJ Edwards, a cerebral player that is going to do all the right things. And then Tremaine Edmonds gives you a lot of like coverage upside and can really run for 250 pounds with that length. The secondary here is really exciting to me. Jaylon Johnson I have as a franchise cornerstone. Kyler Gordon in the slot. They just made him the highest paid slot in the league. Has been a really good draft pick for them. Yeah. Tyreek Stevenson's 2nd round pick a couple years ago. It started every game. And then how about this safety quartet? They brought them all back. It's the same safeties as last year. And Jaquan Brisker looks like a star in the making. It's unfortunate he was limited. It was only 5 or 6 games or something last year, but I love the way he plays. He's one of my favorite young safeties to watch in the league. And then Kevin Byard's ageless. I'm not sure what happened there with the Eagles, but he's still a really good player. And for him to be able to hold it together last year like he did, with kind of their pass rush wasn't what it was supposed to be. He loses his running mate. And I thought he was an important piece of that equation, while I thought you still got a chance to see some of their depth in Elijah Hicks and Jonathan Owens get a chance to play. So I think this back seven's in really good shape with some ceiling as well.
Yeah, obviously, Byard's game was never really predicated on like dynamic, explosive athleticism. He's always been such a smart player, and I think that is going to allow him to continue to age very gracefully, especially if Brisker continues to ascend the way that he did. And I think that's a great call out for you. I also had Jaylon Johnson as a cornerstone. I think he's the best player on the roster as of like body of work at the NFL level right now.
Fair. I don't think that's a hot take. I'd agree with you on that.
They've got a lot to work with here. And then like that middle of the field defending ability between both the safeties and the range of Edmonds and Gordon and the nickel.
Yeah.
I like the DNA of this part of the football team to go with if they can stay healthy up front. And if they can find a third pass rusher, I think this can be a really competitive group.
I totally agree. And I think I'm excited to see just like a different influence on this personnel as well with the coaching staff coming in. And it's like kind of an interesting amount of like returning players. I mean, you're bringing back 9 of 11 starters on defense, or really, I guess 10 of 11. No, 9 of 11, because the Odeyingbo and Jarrett are new. So there's like a lot of continuity, but like maybe some schematic elements can unlock more of this group. Where also complementary football is going to matter a ton. I think that gets lost a lot of times in these conversations about units. It's like, well, how much did the offense help or hurt them? I think the offense being better, which I think everyone expects it to be this year, will help this defense play at a higher level.
The defensive coordinator in Chicago, Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
Think about some of those Allen.
Knows how to coach defense. Yeah.
You think about some of those Allen defenses in New Orleans and think about some of the names that we've highlighted as kind of the identifying pieces, whether it's Byard and what they did with Ty Matthew. You think about Brisker. You think about Tremaine Edmonds as kind of the rangy linebacker type, and New Orleans has always had linebackers that can scoot. I think it's a great development for Gervon Dexter. I think there's a really nice niche role for Grady Jarrett that exists here. They've always liked their big ends in New Orleans, and Dayo being the free agent signing, right? Let's add one more.
That's such a clean transition. That's a great freaking call out, man. Like, there's no wondering how these players are going to fit in. That's a good coordinator hire that fits what they have. They don't have to like rework all their personnel, which is always important. I think when you have a coach like a Ben Johnson coming in, he's here because of offense.
Right. And that's where they spent. Their premium draft assets, because they used day 1 and day 2 picks on a wide receiver, tight end, and an offensive tackle.
Yeah.
It's where they spent their assets via trade and their free agent splash dollars, right? With Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman. Makes sense. And then they found the right coach with the right experience who, well, they paid a pretty penny for Dayo, but by and large, I think there's a lot of translatability with what they've assembled and what Dennis Allen can really get a lot out of.
Yeah. Ben Johnson can say, you're the head coach of the defense. Do what you need to do.
Yep.
We're going to get these young players going on offense. I mean, if I was a Bears fan, I'd be pretty excited.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism now. A lot of this is going to fall on the shoulders of the quarterback and the execution of it, right?
But you feel like you've given him what he needs. And nobody's denying the talent level of Caleb Williams. Nobody.
Right.
You got a good scheme. You got good players around you. Your defense should be solid. I mean, the biggest problem with the Bears is outside of their control. It's that they play in a freaking awesome division.
Right.
And that's – I think highly of the NFC this year. We'll get through these 8 weeks and we'll really know. But I think the NFC, for all the conversation last year about AFC dominance and who's good in the NFC, I don't know. I think it's the other way around. I think there's a lot more depth in the NFC right now than there is in the AFC.
I think that's totally fair. Do you want to finish with a special team shout out?
Torrey Taylor, good looking young punter. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, Kyle Crabbs.
Imagine being surprised.
No, I mean, you want to talk. I mean, honestly, right? I'm not trying to poke fun here, but like that guy was maybe like the one of the biggest reasons why Iowa was able to be what they were, right? I mean, the guy was control the game, allow them to play their style. This guy pinning teams deep, big time hang time. Like, it's a freaking good punter, man.
Yep. And you need it in Chicago, right? The Windy City. You need to be able to have ball control and hang time and float it up there. And we both had Torrey Taylor graded already as a quality starter. I wouldn't dare put a cornerstone on a punter.
No.
You got a quality starter grade, which is going to give him a nice old juice here for special teams grade. That it?
I'm good. Good start, man.
The Chicago Bears are in the books, and the Caleb Williams conversation will be part of the quarterback conversation that comes probably, 9 weeks? 8 weeks, maybe 8 weeks from today when we get to the first Monday after we do all 32 teams. But this Bears roster certainly looks like it is well aligned for a competitive season and a year one with a new coaching staff where you're looking to maybe ignite and breathe life into a Bears team that's looking to chase down the rest of the NFC North. We will be chasing down the rest of the NFC North the rest of the week here on the show. We hope you hit subscribe. Come back, see us again tomorrow as we continue to, Packers.
It's Packers Day. Lord
Pack,
help us.
We'll get it out of the way early, and it'll be done. And everybody who tuned into this one, you can come back and hate watch us talk about the Packers tomorrow on the show. We're out of here, Kyle Crabbs, Marino. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.